Hi, this is Katherine Gibson, and today we're going to be talking about the Flatstagram app. So it's basically an Instagram clone. It has similar functionality. You're able to add images and add comments to those specific images. So right now, there's this image. If I wanted to add a comment to it, I could do so, and it'll just, pop up right below that image. But you'll notice if I go to this other image, there's no comment because I didn't add it to that image. I added it specifically to this image. So in order to do this, in order to make this functionality work, we're going to have two classes. We're going to have the comments controller, and we're going to have a comment class. So two different classes. We're going to start in the comments controller class. So the first thing we have is the constructor. Every class has to have a constructor. So this one is going to say this dot add comment form equals, this is jQuery, so anytime you see that $sign, you know it's jQuery. And we're using jQuery to select anything that has the add comment class. So if we use our inspecting tools, we can go find that, and we see it's this form. So form, we scroll over, class equals add comment. So if I scroll over that, we can see where it's highlighted. So each of these images has a form, and it's going to be where we can input comments. And so this is how it's going to know which image that comment belongs to. The next thing is this init method. So this is where we're adding a bunch of the listeners, so these form listeners, and that's right down here. So the first thing we're doing, I chose to use the spread operator. It's new in E6. Basically, this is going to let me take this node list that I get from selecting everything that has the add comment class, and it's going to let me use a function, a built-in function on it. So for me, I was using the for each function. So what it's going to do is it's going to take the form, each of those forms, and it's going to add an event listener. That event listener type is going to be a submit type. So anytime I hit the submit button, it's going to take that event, and the first thing it's going to do is prevent the default. So the default, anytime you normally would click a button, would be to refresh a page. However, we don't want that to happen. We want it to just stay where it's at, because these comments that we're adding are not actually being stored anywhere. They're not persisting anywhere. They're not in a database. So we don't want it to refresh. So if I were to take this away, we just saw how I was able to enter in hello and it showed up. If I comment this out and I'll refresh the page. So I try again and I say hello, hit add comment, and it refreshes the page. And it actually doesn't even let you get back over there. So if we go back, take that out, refresh our page, and we get back. All right. So that's why we have that in here, saying whenever we do have this event of submitting, we're going to prevent the default. We're going to prevent it from refreshing the page. All right, next is going to be getting the image ID. So every comment we make, like I said, we only want it to go to one image. I don't want to put in a comment and then it be added to all of my images. I want it to be specific. So I need to go and get the image ID. Each of these images has an ID associated with it. So if I look here again, these are each of my images. I can see my image ID is image-0, data ID 0. So I have, this is the first one in here. And if I go to my second one, image 1, data ID 1. So that is my image ID that I need to get. So the way I'm going to do this, I'm going to talk about parseInt in just a minute, but we're taking this event. So whichever one of these I clicked on, we're taking that target and we're going to get the attribute. So attributes, you can have a whole bunch of different attributes, ID, class, whatever. We're specifically going to be looking at this data ID because it gives us that number that we need. Now, if you're looking here really carefully, you'll notice that there are quotation marks here, which means this is a string. So that's why we have this parseInt thing here, is because we want to be able to make sure that that string is being turned into an integer, because we need it to be an integer. All right, next is going to be the variable for comment. So we are going to be taking that element comment description at image ID. So if we take this first one, we're still on the, actually hold on, this is the first one. and we can find, we know this is an ID, because we say element by ID. So if we look for the ID, it should say comment description. Where we got it? Oh, it's under the form. Here we go, because it's on our input. So this, specifically the input field, has this ID of comment description, and this one says 0 because, once again, that is the image ID. So that's what we're looking for. So we're getting this whole input field. That's going to be our comment. Next is going to be the new comment. So then we're going to initialize a new comment, and I'll talk about this in just a second. That's going to be our other class that we're making. And whenever I do that, I'm getting the comment.value. Now whenever I do that, I'm actually taking what's inside of here. So if I type hello, my comment.value is going to say a string of hello. If I were to type goodbye, it would be a string of goodbye. And I'm also going to be feeding it my image ID, which I got up here. This bit right here is just taking this right here, so this whole input field, and it's going to reset it back to 0. So whenever I add a comment, it goes back to a blank field. And then we have this dot render new comment. So I'm going to render down here. I'm going to render whatever's in new comment, which I'll get to in just a minute. Before I get to the render stuff, I want to go over the comment class. So here's our comment class. So we have two variables up at the top, comment underscore all, which is an empty array, and as we're adding comments, we're going to be putting them into this array. So if I wanted to look at all of the comments for a specific image, I could target that image and then look at comment.all on that image, and it would give me an array of all of those comments. And the second variable is going to be comment underscore ID, and that's going to just start at 0. Now, I'm using this down here because this is how I'm actually creating the IDs for the comments. I chose to do it this way instead of using like length or something like that, so it would avoid repeats. So if I were to go through and delete a comment, or delete something else, it won't mess it up. So that's why I'm choosing to do it this way. Alright, so we have our comment class again. We start with a constructor, and we're feeding it that comment and the image ID that we just sent through over here. So whenever we type new comment right here, so new comment, that's referencing this comment class, and we have to feed it the image ID and the comment as well. So we have our ID that we're creating for the comment. So this is different than the ID that we were looking at earlier. That was for the image. This is going to be for the comment in the for that image. So we have image ID and we have comment ID. Then we have this .comment text, so that's going to take in the comment, the value of that comment that we got earlier, and we're just relabeling it comment text. And then this .image, this is actually going to be using this method that we write down below called find image, and that's going to let us once again make sure that we're adding it to the correct image instead of adding it to all of them or one that we don't want to add it to. Here, comment all.push this is where we're adding on to that comment all. So as we add a comment, it's going to get pushed to this list, this array up at the top. So we have our find image method, and we're going to feed it the image ID because that's how we're going to find the image. Every image has a unique ID. So the first thing, we have this variable for current image. So whatever image I'm currently looking at is going to equal, you're going to go through and look at all of the images. So once again, this is something that was pre-built. It's in the image.js file. And I'm going to find this specific image by feeding it the specific ID. And then here, const ID and comment text, we're just assigning this specific ID and this specific text to this object that we're creating, this comment, or this instance. Next, we have current image.comments. So that current image is this guy, and we're saying, okay, the comments on that current image. Whenever we do this, once again, I'm using the spread operator, but it's in a slightly different way. The thing about the spread operator is there's like a million different things you can do with it. In this case, I'm just creating this array again. So one of the useful things with the spread operator is that instead of just adding to and manipulating the original list, I actually just create a copy. So I'm going to create a copy of all of the comments on whatever the current image is, and I'm going to add on this new comment with this ID, with that comment ID. And then when I'm done, I'm going to return that array of comments on that current image. Alright, so we've seen how we are adding the comment to the image, and now we actually want to make it pop up. We want to make it show over here. So once again, if I type in please goodbye, it's going to come up here. It's not getting added to any other image, it's just right here. And that is with this method here. So I mentioned the render function over here, right here, render. I'm feeding it this new comment, so that's going to be the comment object. I'm creating a variable, comment UL, so that's just the list of comments. And that's going to be a list of another selector, or a list I get from another selector. So I am selecting all of the comments on a comment object of a specific image. And we can see that, where is it? Comments. Oh, is this the first one? Yeah, it is. Oh, right here. So the image ID right here, and then we're adding each of the comments. So that's where we're seeing that. And then we have our comment, that unordered list. We're looking specifically at the HTML, so whatever that inner HTML is, and we're adding on this new object, and we're adding on using that method that we write in the comments class right here, comment EL. This is what actually the HTML that's going to show up. So it's going to return a list with an ID, so this.id for that specific comment, and then this.comment text. So the information that we just saw over here is getting fed into this right here. So we're getting that ID and we're getting the comment text. Oh, sorry, it's right here. And that's what we see here. So we have an LI being created for each one. The ID is unique, and it has the comment text that we add in. So that's how it is actually rendering on the side. Now, there's lots of other things we could add to this app, but this is just a simple feature of it, just looking at how to actually add comments and make sure that we're adding it to a specific image. Remember, you have to get the image ID, so you have to make these two things work together in order to render it to the specific place you want it to render. But yeah, that pretty much covers how we made this work, and hopefully you got something out of it.